Hi, I'm Elena Arenz, ANGA Certified Rock Guide. I'm going to show you my favorite ways to set up a top rope anchor when you have two bolts at the top of a climb. The first method, I'm going to clip my quick draw underneath any existing hardware there directly into the hanger. The reason why I want to do it this way is because I want to be sure that my carabiner is not going to get potentially cross-loaded across any of that fixed hardware. I'm going to attach two quick draws, one on each bolt, with the gates opposite and opposed. Then I attach my climbing rope and lower to the ground. This is a great method if I'm arriving at the anchor and I quickly want to lower back down, and maybe it's just a friend and I who are going to be top roping on this for a short-term period of time. The next method, you can see I have one double locking quick draw. And this is great if I expect I'm going to have a little bit more time top roping off that anchor. The locking quick draw provides a little bit more security for several people top roping off of it, and it's quick and easy to install. If the top rope's going to be up for a while and I have a bunch of people who are going to be climbing on it, I'm going to use something slightly more secure. I'm going to take a 48-inch sling with two non-lockers, attach that to my two bolts underneath the hardware like we talked about. I want to be sure that that bar tack is up and out of the way, so when I go to tie my master point, which can either be an overhand on a bite or a figure 8 on a bite, depending on the height of that master point. If I choose to do an overhand here, here's a pro tip for you. Take any extra non-locking carabiner and attach it directly into that overhand on a bite. So after this has been top roped on all day, it makes that overhand much easier to untie. Last step, add two locking carabiners to the master point. Tighten everything down. Clip in your climbing rope. Boom, boom. And then screw the gates down so you don't screw up. So if you do attach a non-locking carabiner into that overhand, you want to be sure that nothing else gets clipped into it. Another pro tip, take a non-locking carabiner, clip it between the two lockers, clip the rope in. The reason why I'm doing this is not for any extra added security. The wider radius for the rope to pass over is going to increase the product life of my climbing rope and my locking carabiners. My final go-to is the quad. Again, a non-locking carabiner underneath the hardware. I'm going to double up my sling, keeping that bar tack isolated at the end. I'm going to tie an overhand knot about a third of the distance on one end. I'm going to tie a second overhand knot about a third of the distance on the opposite end. Experiment with different materials for constructing your quad. In this case, I'm using a Dyneema sling because the anchor is free and clear. It's not rubbing against anything. If I were concerned about any sort of friction of the material being top roped on for a long period of time, I might use a cordelette to do the same. The reason why I use overhand knots is because they're easier to adjust. I want to move those down as close to my master point carabiners as possible to limit any possible extension should one side release. I'm going to take two locking carabiners, again opposite and opposed. I'm going to isolate the strands 2 and 2 and clip those carabiners to each one of those, and then I can attach the rope. Once the rope is attached to your carabiners, you're going to screw down so you don't screw up, and now you have a perfectly self-equalizing top rope anchor that you can use to top rope multiple lines off of one point. What you definitely don't want to do is clip all 4 strands, because should the anchor come unclipped from one side, a best practice is to not top rope through the fixed hardware. So we always want to attach our rope with our own materials and then remove it when we're done climbing at the end of the day. Mossy hooks are great for lowering off of. I simply clip my rope into each one of them, paying attention to which way they naturally hang. Oftentimes they're not designed to be clipped opposite and opposed. Sometimes they are, so you need to be paying attention to how they naturally rest. Remember, Mossy hooks are there for the final lower off, and they are not intended to be top roped off of. Another way to set up a top rope anchor is to thread the rope through the chain. But in this configuration, we've added a locking carabiner above the chain, so the carabiner is taking all of the friction, which is not inducing any extra wear on our fixed hardware. This has a couple different benefits, such as I don't have to come back up and clean an anchor, which is especially helpful if the last person climbing is unfamiliar with how to do that. Practice these on your own time before your life is on the line.